Hello and welcome to SteamLUG Cast, Season 3, Episode 5. This week has been pretty busy on the news front. We are going to be talking about GDC, Valve, Vulkan, and a whole lot of things. With me, I have DerRidda.
Hello.
And Nemoder.
Hi there.
How are things going?
Fine.
Good. So what have you been playing, DerRidda?
Oh, not a lot. I've been busy, but I found some time to play FTL, Hand of Fate, CSGO, and I played the formidable game of Reformat Your System Simulator 2015 because I bought an SSD and didn't want to juggle my file system around. And you, Nemoder?
I've been playing Factorio, of course, and Crypto the Necrodancer, doing the daily challenges, and Worms Clan Wars that just came out. A lot of fun.
What about you, John?
I've been gaming very little. CSGO for the event last week, we'll talk about that later. And I've been doing quite a bit of beta testing for Hotline Miami 2. And I can't talk about it, so boo hiss. Good music, though.
Definitely looking forward to that.
Anyway, the last fortnight we had quite a few events. We'll take you through them. We had Counter-Strike Global Offensive game. We had quite a few new members turn up, which was pretty awesome. Had a couple of complaints about the game mode. I don't know what we're going to do about that. People seem to not like it being as competitive, which is kind of the point of CSGO, I think. But I think for the next one, maybe we'll do just some deathmatch or something. Just get people to get into the mechanics and just have a good social time.
Or we do that reduced diffuser mode with fewer players that is faster, maybe?
Maybe.
Were you playing on a private server, or was it open to everybody?
It was open to everybody, but it's, our CSGO server, so yeah.
Right, but I mean, was it mostly SteamLUG players, or was it just a lot of random?
Pretty much everyone there was SteamLUG, apart from
nice.
two that joined sort of about 2 hours into it. So yeah, it was really good fun. Good positive atmosphere, people were chatting and everything.
Yeah, that's great.
We had Worms Reloaded. I didn't attend that, either of you two?
No, but...
No, I missed it.
I wish I did, because I guess we will be retiring this game now, because it's buggy and we can get Worms Clan Wars, which apparently isn't buggy.
Yeah.
I think that's the plan, yeah.
I certainly hope so.
So, let's do the 5 sheep salute, or however many, and say goodbye to Worms Reloaded.
Alright.
I already removed it from my Steam.
Aw, see you, Worms. We had a Don't Starve Together sort of weekend. We started a new survival server, and I streamed it on Hitbox for a few hours. That was really good fun. We had a lot of people on there. The server was full.
Yeah, that's more than I could imagine.
And I don't know. We was it Wilderness we moved to afterwards? Because I don't think the first game mode we played was particularly brilliant with sort of some of the anonymous gamers that joined us as well.
Yeah.
It sort of felt like people were taking items and stuff, and then with sort of lack of resources.
We still made it to winter. That's impressive, with like 16 people on the server all looking for food.
Oh yeah, I was very impressed. Yeah, but I think the Wilderness mode is an awful lot better, and apart from constantly dying to wasps, killer wasps or killer bees or whatever they're called, that was really good fun. I enjoyed that. So I think we're going to have some Don't Starve Together as sort of like maybe a monthly event.
Oh, that'd be great.
And do some good streaming for that. Try and get more people involved. Be good. But on top of that, we had a Guns of Icarus online event.
It's always fun.
Since we have so many practice sessions, I think we're getting quite a clan going for that, aren't we? I mean,
yeah, we've got some regulars, and we've got a lot of people that have come in and tried for a while, and I think everybody's had a pretty good time with it.
I was busy playing a game and had 7 messages, invites to join the game within a minute.
Yeah.
You guys, such trolls. And finally, we had Double Action Boogaloo. That was really good fun. We had some new players join us there, because that was after the last cast recording. So we had some new players who, hadn't really got into Linux gaming. They heard about this Iculus talk and listened in and then joined us, and they've been hanging around for some of the events for the past fortnight. So yeah, really good.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. It was my first time playing it, and I was, I don't know, it was a very wacky game, but it was pretty fun.
It is.
Yeah.
I still hate that it has grenades and so many ranged weapons, because it's much more fun if you go in close and personal with pistols and submachine guns. But it's still awesome fun.
Yeah, the shopping centre is probably a bit OP for grenades because, you can just throw them around while you're messing around with other people and, cheap kills. But yeah, really good fun. For upcoming events, after today's cast, we're going to be playing some War Thunder. If you're interested, start downloading it already because it's a big download. So do that in the background while you listen.
Remember, it's free, so if you want to play, you get to play.
Exactly. On the 7th of March, which is a Saturday, we're playing Robocraft. We've got Horde queued up for the 13th, and Borderlands 2 on the 14th. So,
Yeah, it's been a while since we had a Borderlands 2 event. It should be interesting.
I think probably by the time we get to it, enough people have completed the main game that we might be going for some, new game plus difficulty. So expect to die an awful lot.
Awesome.
As Corbin has pointed out, Robocraft is also free to play, so 2 free games this weekend. Especially if you are new, you should try it out, see if you like the community, and maybe even the games. But the community is the icing on the cake.
Indeed. So, moving on to GDC news. Can you tell us what you've been doing, John?
Watching Twitter. That's it. I gave the SteamDB guys a helping hand for a few days, just following tweets and passing them on. And for a couple of hours, I just did.
We should probably do an overview of what GDC actually is for anybody that doesn't quite know it.
Yeah. Okay. GDC is the Game Developers Conference. It happens annually. It tends to be a paywalled event, would you say? You pay a lot for a ticket. You get to see a load of exclusive presentations on new technologies, research, some press announcements and the rest. But it is more basically geared towards developers to socialize and get to know what's been happening the last year in sort of technology and the rest. So
last year it was all about whaling, but this year it was about a whole lot more.
Yes, so let's start before GDC and start with MWC, which is the Mobile World Congress event. HTC had their annual here are some mobiles, here are some sports bands and some other stuff. And then they got to this segment and, I was bad-mouthing them on Twitter saying, they're probably not doing anything. And there you go, they're like, and we have a VR headset and Valve's involved. HTC has announced the Vive, which is a really good-looking, high-quality HTC VR headset. HMD, I was going to say that. It has, 1200 by 1080p screen per eye at 90 hertz refresh, which is pretty damn good. And apart from that, it's got sensors covering all of it, actual camera sensors that sense what Valve are calling their lighthouse base stations, which uses lasers and mathematics and a whole load of other stuff to accurately pinpoint the headset in 3D space, which is pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, Ars Technica has a detailed hands-on report, and the gist of this is that pretty much everybody that touched it is quite excited, said this is better than Oculus Rift so far. They say the sense of presence is extremely incredible, and because there are sensors around the room and you actually walk inside a smaller area inside your room, it's even much more increased. And they have features like if you are closing in on the walls inside your room, you won't just bump into them, but they are fading in like inside your VR display. They fade in the wall, so you know you're just going to bump into a wall into the real world. It's quite incredible, and it sounds really nice, but it also sounds expensive.
It does sound pretty expensive. I mean, the display's probably the cheapest part of it. The hardware for calculating all the positioning information is probably cheap as well. It's probably just a generic off-the-shelf ARM, but the image sensors for capturing the lasers are probably the most expensive thing on it. And I don't know. I think it might be probably the cost of one of their cheapest Steam machines.
Yeah, that could very well be, but let's
not speculate.
If that is just the developer version or if the consumer version will also go down in price, because they might be. I've heard about changes to the lighthouse system that they won't be using lasers but classical infrared instead, infrared emitters. So this might come down in price, and who knows, maybe by the end of the year, the displays they're using will go down in price.
Speaking of the Lighthouse stuff, they've got Class 3 lasers internally, and then they've got a thick plastic, or it's probably a polymer that has some sort of...
Some sort of what?
Not sure of the word I'm looking for here. It emits a Class 1 laser the other side of the plastic, but imagine if a consumer managed to break that. They're going to be, having some rather dangerous lasers coming out of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's a bit of a safety concern there.
That's why it's smart to not sell lasers to idiots in the consumer version. They also showed off some VR controllers. It's like two wands, a bit reminiscent of the PlayStation wands.
PlayStation Move, yeah.
Yes, and they have like big, ugly chunks of sensor equipment right in the front, just like the headset, but even uglier. It looks like a kind of a fractal shape.
It is the ugliest handset I've ever seen. I mean, I understand why it's there. It's to stop your knuckles and everything else, occluding the sensors. But one has to hope that these are prototypes and not final revisions. But we'll have to see that.
And these controllers have the touchpad the Steam controller has, and you can do stuff like make a pincer move where you push on top of it and below to pick items up in the in-game world. And it seems to be working fairly well as well. Like, people were saying these are quite good, and some articles even said this is more important than the actual VR display, because input is so important and not figured out at all for VR so far.
Yeah, I am really impressed with the controllers. I just think they're butt ugly. But it is looking like VR isn't just going to be some sort of overly hyped up fad. It is likely to be the next thing that supplements gaming. I don't know whether it will completely replace it, but once you play Half-Life 3 in this, I don't think you'll want to leave it.
Certainly a lot of momentum towards getting that stuff out there. I still have not tried any of the new VR stuff, and it's all pretty kind of overwhelming to try and understand how people will use it. I don't know, maybe things will pick up, like having centers where you can just go down and rent one and use it in a room for a while, and maybe that'll be a thing. That would certainly help mitigate the cost of trying to have everybody buy their own if they're really that expensive.
They also did show off a Portal-themed demo where you had to repair one of the robots from the co-op mode in Portal 2. And you were asked to do many complicated actions, and you were asked to do them faster and ever faster until you failed, and then GLaDOS popped into screen, and apparently people were very impressed by that as well. There was also an underwater demo where you were on a shipwreck, and suddenly a huge-ass whale swims by, and you can look directly into its eye. I want to see this stuff.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing is, you've had Oculus and Sony talking about their demos and headsets and the rest, and it generally seems like, VR is here to stay. There are some really good demos from all of them. Even Epic was showing a kite demo, a really massive open world that you can fly a kite. I'm just, really excited to hear about all this.
Epic also worked with Peter Jackson, I think, to redo the Hobbit 2 scene with the dragon and Bilbo on the Goat Hoard inside VR, and they figured out what were the issues there, what were the problems to the sense of presence for the viewer more than a player. Like, people had problems figuring out that when Bilbo was talking, it was them that was talking and not some headless figure out there. And they had to remove geometry so people wouldn't focus too much on the outside world. Like, they reduced the amount of pillars so people were focusing on the actual interaction with the dragon instead of the environment, because people seem to be looking at the environments in VR a lot.
Well, it's where you are. I mean, you sat on a nice hill looking over a landscape. You look at everything, don't you? I do wonder if some of these demos are going to be limited to their specific hardwares, and that concerns me a little. I would like Oculus and Valve to be talking together a bit more than they are. But anyway, I think we're going to move on to the next day.
No, because you should also point out the talk Valve did on advanced VR rendering. They had an entire panel on that, disjoint from just showing off their equipment on the show floor. And Road to VR has a write-up on it. So if you are interested in doing some VR-related rendering stuff, you might want to read it. And also pay for the GDC subscription thingy to get the videos out of the vault.
I think they have said that some of those videos are going to be published publicly in the future, so don't get too eager about buying GDC passes. Right, so Valve issued a big press release. Was it just before or just after their talk at GDC? I forget.
Shortly before their talk, I think.
Right. SteamDB has posted the announcement in full with some added line endings because it was a mess. So I'll just read some bullet points. Steam has grown another 50% over the last 12 months in active users, which seems absolutely mental to me.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's 125 million.
But if you consider worldwide, maybe it could be possible.
Could be, yeah. They've announced SteamLink, which is a small streaming machine. You hook up, just your TV. It's going to be available in November for $50. It is basically just, like a Chromecast or a little ARM-based machine that will take your in-home streaming from your powerful computer, wherever it is, to your TV. It'll give you 1080p 60 straight to the TV. Sounds reasonable?
I don't know. I assume it only streams from Windows version since we don't even have Linux client streaming yet.
That kind of streaming we can already do. It's the remote play stuff, not the broadcasting.
I don't think I'm that interested in it, really, but I can see the applications for it, and it's kind of neat. So it's just kind of sad that they've had to make their own rather than just sort of fitting into the Apple TV, Chromecast, other ecosystem that already exists. But
it'd be nice to have some kind of standards on that.
Yeah. They've announced their updated controller, which is a further change to the last one they mentioned, is coming out. I'm not sure when. Did they say spring, or was that another November release?
November as well. November.
Right.
November, yeah.
And that's $50 as well. Now, to talk about the changes to that, it still has two of the touch pads for circles. The left one has got a D-pad style plus symbol to just help guide your thumb, at least while maybe you've got the VR headset on, or maybe just while you're gazing at the TV or whatever. It has got the diamond buttons like they announced at the Steam Dev Days, and it's got a left thumbstick. It kind of looks a bit cheap. I mean, the shiny plastic, and it's, watching some videos, it looks like it's light. Thoughts on it, you two, if you've watched the videos?
Yeah, apparently it's supposed to be the final design, and people are split on it. It seems like it's not the D-pad isn't working as a D-pad. That much was clear. And the diamond regular buttons seem to be a bit too small and too close together, so some people are just thumbing multiple buttons when they just want one. And I mean, that much I can understand that people are not used to the touchpads yet at all.
Yeah, it's going to take some getting used to. I think it's interesting that Valve has been pretty open about working with people to make things. I imagine there's going to be a lot of controller clones that have different kinds of features on them that people like a lot better. But that'll probably take quite a bit of time.
I think the nicest feature is the fact it takes rechargeable batteries. Woohoo!
Yeah, I did see somebody mention that the clip for holding the batteries seemed really, really thin, and they wondered if that was going to last more than a dozen battery changes.
Yeah.
Let's just hope it's just the design that is final, not the on-the-floor actual construction, the actual machining and whatever.
Kind of really disappointed it's missing any sort of audio options, out or in, because that seems a big thing in at least the most recent console controller updates. All of them have got audio out for headphone sockets.
But to be frank, they should just be shipping Bluetooth headsets that connect straight to the machine and not go some silly way through the bloody controller.
Again, I think this is something that people just aren't considering, that it's not going to be like another console. It's so open that any manufacturer can release something that will work with it and not have to suck on Valve's teats to get that out there.
I don't know.
I think it's really going to open the doors for a lot of custom stuff.
I kind of prefer an audio jack to yet another Bluetooth thing that you've got to, charge independently and sort out configuring and wires and everything else. I don't know.
I'm sure if there's a demand for it, it'll happen.
But if you plug it into your controller, it will suck your controller drive faster.
Yeah, but it's barely any power for a headset, really. Anyway, They've also announced that Steam machines from many partners, quite a few of these are ones that were announced 2 years ago when they initially announced their Steam machines.
And some of them didn't seem to have been updated in 2 years.
Yes, some of them are still missing spec information, which is kind of hilarious.
But we will talk about that a little later.
Yes, we will. They've given some further information about the HTC VR headset. Developer versions will be available in spring this year, which is kind of neat. I don't know about availability for that, but we're not developers, so. And their VR room tracking tech, which they've now announced is called Lighthouse, is going to be public and available to interested parties for free for integration into TVs and other such things, which is kind of cool.
It's lovely to see that Valve does not want to keep the proprietary "it's my" attitude on their stuff like so many other companies do that will just flat out sue anyone that even does anything remotely similar. No, they give it away for free. Here, use this, make this awesome. I like this attitude.
Exactly, and that's some of their motivation for Steam VR, which they hope should be the underlying protocol for all of these HMDs. That, developers code to one, and then it works with all of the headsets that will fit the ecosystem. And on top of that, they also announced that this HTC VR headset isn't the only one that's going to be available. They are looking for other people that would like to bring headsets to the platform. And finally,
I just wondered how this will impact the other attempt at open
Razers.
HMDs. Yeah, Razers.
OSVR, as they call it.
Yeah, OSVR. That seemed to be on the right track, and I hope we won't have to try to be open standards fighting over the turf. Instead, they should cooperate and maybe join these efforts.
I think that's the problem. OSVR is in that position where merely existing there, they've got their own protocol, which adds another one to the stack. I think Valve getting in there and saying that they're doing an open one is probably a good indication that OSVR, even though they're using the open source term, I don't think they're going to fare particularly well, sadly. Even though it would be nice that, it would be, I don't know, they're literally using OS there to make their version a bit more popular than it is, and I don't know. I think we should probably stop calling it OSVR and just call it Razer VR.
And now for a real nice and juicy news item. The OpenGL Next Generation initiative has been revealed. It's called Vulkan, like volcano written in German and several other Scandinavian and Slavic languages. Apparently, it's a reference to an open mantle, because that's what it's based on.
Mm-hmm. Kronos were quite public in thanking AMD for giving GL Next a kick in the backside and giving them a foundation to work on. And that's what they've been doing for the last 6 months, a year. Adding in APIs, ironing out some kinks, getting this SPIRV, I'm not sure how you're meant to pronounce it, this intermediate language for the shaders and compute shaders. It honestly sounds like a really good standard that an awful lot of developers are interested in and going to be targeting.
Yeah, what's impressed me the most is they have a demo of Dota 2 actually running on it on Intel hardware already, and it's not just the spec that they're hoping people will adopt. It's already there and working, and that's really cool.
They've said they intend to open source that driver they've worked on sometime, but there were also AMD and NVIDIA present during a talk given by the Kronos group a bit outside of GDC, right next to it. That was also recorded. You can watch it. And both of them already had stuff working, already had some implementations, showed some demos. And it will be working on existing hardware. You probably won't need to buy a new card unless you're sitting on something really old, previous to OpenGL 4.2.
It does seem like hardware from the last 2-3 years are definitely going to be supported. We'll have to see about older hardware than that, but it is looking really good, frankly.
Another big deal here is that it is one API for mobile and full-size systems. So this already gives it more over traction because OpenGL is king in mobile space. And the next iteration of that, even though it's not really an iteration, Vulkan will probably be adopted just by virtue of being the big fish in the pond.
Quite a few of the mobile companies, at least Imagion, was already showing Vulkan demos. So yeah, it seems that mobile's going to be the first one that jumps straight into it. Desktop's going to be following along closely from that, and then it's just down to what's going to happen in the Microsoft and Apple space, really.
Yeah, and the guys who are doing Power VR GPUs for the Apple devices, they already showed off some demo as well. It all seems quite interesting, has a lot of traction, and this is generally good for us. Because no matter what people tell you, past OpenGL 3, which is equivalent to DirectX 9, we were lagging a bit behind because of really poor multi-threading and really hard to work with API where people just didn't see the best practices. They weren't evident unless you attended some talk to see what the best practices were.
And compile time shaders, that's probably the biggest issue. I mean, shader caching got us quite a bit of performance gain, but NVIDIA was really the one that was the only company that was focusing on doing that. And yeah, this really looks like a smart move. I don't know what's going to happen on the Windows side, because quite a few, I mean, the Frostbite developer who actually co-worked on creating Mantle, Repi, said that, yeah, they really they'll move their Mantle backend for Frostbite straight over to Vulkan, which is great. But then EA's mostly, either a console developer or now they're on Origin. You just think, well, what's going to happen there?
I expect it to just be there because OpenGL always was, and no matter what fearmongering Microsoft did, they did never prevent it, and I don't see them preventing this one either. Because that would be really counterproductive for them. Yes, they have DirectX 12, it will probably be the main API for Windows, but if somebody wants to ship Vulkan on a Windows platform, at least on the desktop, I don't know about mobile, that will work. I don't see them blocking this because why?
What I find interesting is, can we see them doing DirectX 12 work for Frostbite at all, if they've already got Vulkan?
I hope not.
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably going to be one of the major pushes to get Vulkan adopted on Windows, because, EA can say, look, we've already got this engine that we're using across, look at all these games, because they're going to say Mirror's Edge, Battlefront, Dragon Age, all of these titles, and they're using this engine that already supports Vulkan, and Vulkan's now hitting Steam consoles, mobile, why isn't it on Windows Desktop? And that will hopefully push it along, and yeah, there'll be a decent amount of inertia behind Vulkan, so it's awesome.
My question here is, could they even prevent it? I mean, they need this kind of hardware access anyway for the stuff they do for CUDA, for OpenCL, and the drivers will just ship their Vulkan DLL. Not the drivers, the games will ship their DLLs, won't they? I mean, this time it won't be a driver thing, not like GLX and stuff like that all the drivers had to ship on their own, but it will actually be implemented by the games or the 3D applications.
Don't know about that, but
if the driver supports it, if the game supports it, could they even feasibly prevent this?
It could still end up like OpenGL, where they implement it kind of half-assed, and so it works, but it's slower on Windows.
It actually isn't slower on Windows if you compare some stuff. Just gonna leave this out there. It's not really that one Valve thing we should probably have as a special token of good attention, but past that, you actually get some better features out of OpenGL 4 Plus on Windows than on Linux because of not being X11 and some other stuff, and better tested drivers.
Well, it's getting better now, but I think early on there's definitely an issue with the drivers they shipped on Windows.
I might be a little out of date, but they've been doing driver signing for quite a while on Windows. Could it be that their WDDM certification could reject anything that does the sort of interaction that Vulkan could do?
I don't think it doesn't do that with NVIDIA drivers. When you just download a beta, you still get all your stuff like CUDA and all the other things, and CUDA has the kind of access you need. It's all about compute shaders here, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they're shared. Vulkan's actually, it's not just compute, it's render shaders for both of them. So
yeah, but it's still the same level of access to the GPU.
I guess.
Well, regardless, I doubt we're going to see it on the Xbox anytime soon.
Who cares about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, only about 10 million people so far, luckily. Right, so the next bit of news. Unreal Engine has dropped their monthly subscription fee. It is now free to sign up for, with the caveats that you still need to sign up for sign their EULA and attach your account on their website with GitHub, and it will give you access to their source code for Unreal Engine, which is probably the second biggest news of GDC, which is pretty damn awesome.
Absolutely. I signed right up. I still have to compile it and see how it works, but it's super interesting. You still have to pay the 5% royalties on everything you earn more than $3,000 per quarter on. But if you just want to do stuff, you can do it for absolutely freezies. And involve yourself in the, let's say, not open source, but open core. Isn't that what they call the marketing bullshit for stuff that isn't really open source? You can do that as well.
It's still shared source, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, but at least it's open enough that everybody working on their own little game can still say, hey, if something doesn't work, they can go in and see how it is and submit that to other people to look at, and I think that's going to be amazing.
So the next bit of news that's kind of attached to that, NVIDIA's given permission for Unreal to ship physics source with their engine, which is yet another, whoa, I can't believe they're doing that.
But that's CPU physics only. It is not the on graphics card compute physics.
But I mean, I wonder what Havoc thinks of that. I mean, is it good enough physics for, using the CPU for most indie games? Probably.
Also, if somebody goes along and says, nice source, I'm going to port this to OpenCL now, what could they even do about it?
Not much, I guess. I mean, I haven't read the legal reasons for, if you've got to sign a EULA or anything, but it is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's still encouraging to see NVIDIA. I mean, that's the second source release. The first one was like that mobile thing they released, Tegra or something like that. So it's hopefully a trend that they'll continue to release sources as they do. So we also got Unity 5, the personal version of it, I guess, if you're not selling. I don't know what the number is on it, but anyway, it's all the features in the engine are now free to use.
Yep, again, it's free to get. There are some caveats. You still get a splash screen to say that you're the personal edition, which is probably the largest downside. Hey, look at our awesome game, and it's got this splash screen that says you're cheap.
Well, if it gets to the point where your game's popular enough that becomes an issue, then
yeah,
pretty easy to solve it.
I know. But I don't know. This news should be good, but I'm just sort of a bit meh about it. I know it sounds a bit negative, but
I mean, game development is democratized completely now. It's not just, we made the price so low for everybody that it's democratized. No, it's download this fully featured engine, develop your stuff, and then if you're in the position, you can pay us.
Yeah, it's certainly a change in the industry. I'm still just on Unity. I'm looking forward to the performance increases in Unity 5. I've heard it's got quite a lot of new features, and hopefully the performance stuff comes over to Linux as well, but I haven't seen that many games that have shipped with it yet.
Wasteland 2 will be moving over to Unity 5.
Yeah, and 7 Days to Die, I was going to do that too, and they already said just on their trials that it's quite a bit faster.
So the final bit of news about free engines. Source 2 has been announced. That was at in the Valve press dump, but we sort of skipped it. It will be free for developers to use. It requires shipping on Steam though, and already, according to the Dota 2 demos, it supports Vulkan.
Yeah, it's interesting. It has a caveat that you have to ship it on Steam, and what are you going to do if you're not already on Steam but you want to use it? I mean, are you going to be able to ship your game outside of Steam until you can get on Steam? It's kind of a little confusing there.
It really isn't an odd requirement, yeah.
So I assume it's mostly just geared to people that already have an established connection with Valve and are able to use it.
And also, we don't know anything really about the tools there yet. We know some things about the Dota 2 tools that have shipped with early versions of Source 2. That everything went a lot more in engine, but nobody has seen the whole package yet. And in the past, Source was renowned to be kind of poop to work with for developers.
I mean, that's the thing. We don't know release date. We don't really know about any of the features, so we just know it's Source 2. And, they've been talking about their physics support for the last couple of years at GDC. Maybe it's got a far better physics library than Havoc or Physics could offer. Apart from that, it sounds like it's really geared towards community workshop sort of stuff. So maybe it will be the new sort of engine that will be for modders, cementing the position of sort of Gmod.
From a Linux user's perspective, I think it's still hard to top Unreal just by the fact that we have the editor already working in there, and none of the other engines, free or not, have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose there's Godot and Leadworks and stuff like that, but from the big players, that's about it.
But if the only thing that ever comes out with Source 2 is Valve games, it's still fine.
Absolutely.
Sure.
If no indie ever chooses to work with it, which I doubt.
Kind of worried about the position that Unreal puts all the other engine developers in now, because they are a incredibly competent engine for free. Where does that put engines sort of like Leadworks or Godot? And how do they win audience if their competitors are free to use?
Yeah, if the engine like Leadworks that still costs money, at least $100 for the indie version if you're not on Steam, if they can communicate that, hey, we have an upfront cost, but this is all you are ever going to pay, because it is all you're ever going to pay. They do not have any kind of royalty. Well, I think that will still resonate with some people, but I don't see them being that high priced in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the days of the thousands of dollars for an engine for the big games, I think those days are about over.
Can somebody go over to Unigine Corp, knock at their door, and tell them, please do something? You have an engine, but look at what all the other people are doing. It's not okay anymore to hide your price tag at all, or even have that high price tag. Because, they don't even tell you an estimate now unless you contact them and ask them for evaluation.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot more engines out there too, so it'll be interesting. Even stuff like Crytek is in pretty murky water now, so we'll see what happens.
Next up, Steam and Valve news. We were just talking about CryEngine, and this is a title that's based on it, so I think we should mention it. Evolve was actually included in a link on the Steam store, and it sounds like it's coming to SteamOS, so that's really big news.
Awesome.
Yeah, so many CryEngine games have been announced for Linux, but we haven't seen much of them yet.
We really haven't, have we? Don't know if that's a worry, because we haven't seen any screenshots of anything running on the platform yet, have we?
No, but all of these games are quite far out yet. Oh, no, strike that. Star Citizen is not far out, it's existing, and it's not on Linux yet.
Evolve recently launched, yeah.
Yeah, it's some of the other games, like the new Homefront, which has disappeared after the whole resell issue and God knows what, when Deep Silver picked it up.
I would not be surprised if that's cancelled or being reworked into something else.
But it looked so awesome.
Well, that's the thing. I saw a gameplay demo. There was like 20-minute vertical slice of something, and it looked like they'd got, a third of the game done already. So, it confuses me as to why it's delayed so much, really.
Too many hands, too many difficulties. This is a candidate for a failure, even if the first dev team did everything right. So many changes, the game hardly ever survives, sadly. But let's move on with the good news. There's a sale going, and that sale did more than just give you cheap games. It's SteamOS themed, it has existing SteamOS Linux titles, and it also stealth confirmed some new ones that we didn't know about before, like big ones. Batman Arkham Knight is supposed to be coming to Linux. Shadows of Mordor and Feral have taken credit for it. Payday 2 is also going to come to Linux. Magicka 2, Banner Saga, but we knew about that one, kinda.
I thought we did, yeah.
Saints Row 4, Company of Heroes 2, which was already in the stars, if you have paid attention to SteamDB. The Witcher 3, which, when it first went up for pre-order, had a SteamOS logo, then it disappeared, and nobody ever heard anything about Linux again, except Corbin, who snuck around Gamescom, couldn't get a Linux confirmation out of them, but somebody yelled after him that it will be coming to SteamOS, is now in that list. So it is coming to Linux? That was... And I don't know, it still isn't really confirmed, but it's in that list. And if it's not coming now, I give everyone permission to slap the person responsible for that interface as long as that person agrees to it.
It's more funny they can't make their mind up rather than it toggling between. I would expect it to come. Maybe not at launch, because it sounds like that team is absolutely crunched out of all sense of life at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I expect it to come.
Total War Rome 2 is also coming. Not really a great game, I've heard. And Grid Autosport, which is a competent game, I've heard.
Grid 2 was fun. I don't know how different Autosport is, but yeah, if it's the same as Grid 2, then yeah, good game.
I can understand some of the developers being a little wishy-washy, after listening to Ryan talk.
Yeah.
You commit to something and you can't deliver, and it's just the worst thing ever. So yeah, you can understand.
Yeah.
Maybe if these developers were paying Ryan universally and not just push stuff in his for free queue,
that would be true.
Which is full to the brim.
Well, that's another issue too, but yeah.
And obviously we want to put a disclaimer in. All of these titles have been announced as coming. Maybe one or two might not arrive. I don't know. I don't want to scare anyone.
Don't buy it unless you know it's out on Linux.
Yeah, don't pre-order, is what I would say. Payday 2 has had a Mac beta on SteamDB for well over a year. I don't think that has even been announced at all. So yeah, we shall have to see. All of these games might wait till November to release, which would be a bit scary. But Shadow of Mordor is probably the most... I just, cannot wait to play that.
Also the Batman, if it's as good as all the other Batmans.
So we mentioned this briefly. Valve have actually listed all of their Steam machines that they expect to be selling on their website. They've got a little storefront. They're only doing ranges of prices at the moment for most of them, and it's a click through to actually find the machines. And yeah, it seems that some specs aren't fully fleshed out yet, so details are kind of low. What do you guys think about these?
Some of these are mind-bogglingly stupid deals. There's an alternate Steam machine, and it costs $1,100 at the lowest and offers you an Intel Core i3, a GTX 750 Ti, 8 gigs of DDR3 and a 500 gigabyte SSHD, which is abysmally weak for that kind of money. You could make that yourself much cheaper. But if you say, hey, what about their profit margin? That's some people have made a calculation. They have a $400 profit margin on that thing, which is not normal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's still pretty early to to judge it on those prices.
Might have been better to not put prices on these then, because even the high-end machine is hardly justified. It's a bit closer to being justified, but it's $1,899 on a Core i5 for 670K, a GeForce GTX 980. That is where you lose a little bit of money, but not that much. Only 8 gigs of DDR3 and 2 terabyte SSHD. And I have no idea why they insist on SSHDs, even on the lowest end. That's a silly idea, in my opinion.
I think they're just doing it for capacity, because Steam games are massive.
Yeah, but then you just go classic HDD and strike the solid state part.
Yeah, I'm also kind of surprised they've gone for an i5 for that, really. They've got a 980. Why aren't they, why don't they have better CPU than that?
You do not need anything better than an i5 for any kind of gaming application.
Oh, you really do.
Yeah.
But what if you want to do more than gaming? What if you want to, render some video at the same time?
On your Steam machine.
Yeah.
Then I come to your house and slap you and tell you should buy a real computer.
Well, there's also other things, like heat and noise for a living room machine that might play into that.
Yeah.
Well, the best offer. What was the best offer in your opinion?
Best value for money. I would have picked the Cyber A, but as I was talking earlier, before we started recording, it's got a pretty weak CPU, and it's also got a Radeon graphics card, but it's $500. I mean, it will certainly spank the current consoles in performance and image quality. But I can see that games are going to have wavering support and rendering quality with that machine.
Yeah, AMD really needs to step up their game. And I'm not talking about Vulkan because they pretty much invented the base of the API. They should have an easy time implementing that, but they're classic OpenGL drivers, because we have 1,000 games on Steam by then, even more, that all will be using traditional OpenGL.
I just think it's all too early. I think once some of the prototype machines go out and the reviews on those start coming in, comparing each machine to each other and seeing performance, I think that's when it's really going to matter. Because you can look at the specs the whole time, but until you actually, sit down and
get to play with one
and run it through, you just won't know.
I don't know. I would like to see some that are targeting a sensible base and a decent price, because I do want these to sell well, but I just cannot see any of them selling particularly well if the base price is either 500 or 700, which seems to be really popular.
500 might still be doable, but you need to really go down on your profit margin. I also tweeted about my personal opinion that that Valve should add a $100 Steam Wallet voucher with every one of these machines because of how high priced they are. If you put it big on the box that you get $100 of free games with it, that will ease a lot of people into the $500 ones and higher.
Yeah, something like a controller and a $50 coupon code or something.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the marketing ramps up for that stuff come closer to November.
Do we have any thoughts about the breadth of the difference in hardware? Because we've got them down to like NVIDIA 750s all the way up to 980s. Do we think it's good enough that there is that range of different, broad range of different hardware, or do we think it's because personally I think they should be having fewer models so that it's easier for a consumer to pick a budget or a high-end machine?
I think again that'll come down to the review system, and I mean, there's so many people and companies that will push what actually works and what doesn't and what you can use it for, that I think that'll filter it out at the end of the day.
But that was always the plan, to have this many configurations or more even, because it was never to be a real console spec, but to bring PC gaming to the living room to an audience that is not as tech savvy, doesn't want to be as tech savvy, wants to be on the couch, wants to use a controller, but still wants to enjoy some of the benefits of PC gaming. And apparently that benefit is not priced, not even close. Nope.
No. But I guess what I'm trying to say is there doesn't seem to be a minimum for memory, for storage, even storage speed. There doesn't seem to be a low VRAM setting, or even CPU throughput or CPU support, as in what extensions the CPU has to have to make it a Steam machine. And I think that is going to provide a sort of a mess when it comes to producing games for this range of machines. Because if one of the machines ships with just 1 gig of video memory, then all of the consoles have to basically go down to that. All of the games that come for SteamOS have to support 1 gig of video RAM, which I think is probably a bad thing.
No, because in the end, it's also not even supposed to that every Steam machine runs every SteamOS game.
Right.
You will eventually, if they do their thing right, run into games that tell you, we will probably not run on your system or not run all that well.
Yeah, it's not going to be like consoles where you expect every game to work on every system. It's just not going to be how it is.
But that's going to be tough as balls to communicate to an audience that potentially comes from classic consoles.
To the consumer, yes. I'm kind of worried that an awful lot of the regular people going shopping for a Steam machine, where it's going to advertise PC gaming, console PC gaming or something like that, and people will buy a machine and then it won't work. What Valve could do is, how Windows has that sort of performance score thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called. Do something like that to just inform the user. what sort of games they might be able to expect to run or something. Just make it easier than quoting numbers on the Steam store page, because if you don't know what you're doing, then all these numbers are just gobbledygook and it's pointless anyway.
Well, again, they could do something, like, I hate to say curation, but, something similar where reviewers can come in and, put scores for games on every piece of hardware, and then they could have some kind of system that would integrate that and show it on the store, like what games work on what hardware. But yeah, it's definitely a concern, so we'll see how they deal with it.
Is there anything else we want to cover in that little segment?
I think not. That should conclude our Steam and GDC coverage. And we move on to general gaming news. Frozen Byte announced Trine 3. They did announce Trine 2, but a while ago. So Trine 3, it will be coming to Linux as well. It's absolutely in their plans, they said on Twitter, or something along those lines.
Yeah, if you've seen the trailer, it's definitely a departure from their standard side-scroller. Although it does look like it kind of has a fixed camera for the 3D views, so it's not like you're, full free-range platformer, so it might not be as clunky as it sounds.
So it looks like an open-world platformer. I'm interested already.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but it kind of seems like the camera's on a rail on some of those things, so you don't have that thing where the camera gets stuck in the wall half the time and you can't tell what's going on. So I think it could be really well done.
It wasn't obvious to me, just sort of watching the trailer, whether it would be sort of a corridor that the camera's following you down, and at least you've got some negotiation to move around, or whether it's sort of more like Mario 64, where you have options or whatever. But yeah, it looking absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Cannot wait for that.
So we also had Worms Clan Wars released, and it's actually a really well-designed game compared to their previous release that was good for what it was, but had a lot of bugs and multiplayer is difficult. And this one, at least, the new one, you can play cross-platform, and seems pretty stable and works pretty well.
And it's heavily discounted right now, 75% off. And I might have to hint at a possible Worms event next month, if nobody's opposed.
I'm sure we will probably arrange something like that.
Yeah, we'll make a few.
So here's a game that was announced for Linux out of nowhere, and most of you probably didn't even know that was a game that's being worked on. Mad Max will be coming to Linux. Like in Mel Gibson Mad Max, just they can't use his face, but it's that character, and he has a game coming, and it's coming to Linux. I saw a gameplay demo of that 2 years ago at Gamescom in Cologne. It looked generic and boring as crap, but that was 2 years ago. So let's wait and see how that game turns out.
Is this tying in at all with that new movie that just came out a while ago?
It was meant to.
Or maybe the movie's not out yet.
Fairly.
Yeah.
I haven't followed it, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I have forgotten about it as soon as I went out of the booth, because it was super generic.
I was fairly certain when the teaser came out, they were trying to time it with the new film that was being prepared or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, this news came out of absolutely nowhere, a few days before GDC, which was surprising enough in itself. And it seems really odd for them to target this game rather than their other title that they're currently working on, which is Just Cause 3, which I think possibly might have larger appeal to it. I don't know. But yeah, that's really exciting news.
Yeah, more big titles, the better.
But also, they had 2 additional years since I actually saw what looked like functioning gameplay. It probably isn't going to be too little dev time if that game turns out to be not good. It should at least be a solid release.
And we've also had Torchlight 2 released. That's been had a lot of people waiting on that for some time, but it seems like it works pretty well, and I think most people are happy with it.
It's also heavily discounted on Steam right now, and I should also hint that we might possibly do an event for that as well next month.
Absolutely should.
Unless somebody's opposed. So, empty your wallets, play with us next month, because all these mean people released their games right after we scheduled our events for this month.
Yeah, that's bad timing. We should shout at all of them.
Well, it's okay. It gives people a chance to get used to them, and we'll end up with more people next month playing it, so that'll be cool.
I think Torchlight's probably the most talked about game on Reddit for when's this coming? When's this coming? And
Yeah.
finally it being public has meant that I can stop rolling my eyes at the post, because I haven't been able to obviously mention it on Reddit whenever someone's asked about it, sadly. And on to other things I haven't been able to talk about. Hotline Miami 2 is being released on the 10th.
Nice. That coincides with City Skylines being released on the 10th, so that'll be a fun day.
Yes.
Yeah, that City Skylines is a bit discounted as well, and people so far who had early preview test builds were really excited. They said this is what the new SimCity should have been. It's heaps and pounds better. It's really what people wanted from SimCity. So I guess it's good. If you like SimCity, you should totally look out for that game.
And finally, a game that released just before GDC, Rex Rocket. It is a heavily retro 8-bit platformer. It's kind of hard, as in it's tough.
Is this Mega Man hard?
I've never played that, shockingly. It's pretty hard. You've got to be pretty damn active on the keyboard or the controller if that's your preferred gaming preference. But yeah, that's a pretty good game. It's got lovely music, really nice storyline.
I think I'll definitely need a new controller before trying that game.
So, I guess this concludes this cast. Don't forget, if you have feedback for us, we are available at cast@steamlug.org. We are all over SteamLUG in Freenode IRC. We are available on the forums of our Steam group. So, there's plenty of ways to tell us what you think, what you want to see, what events you want to see. Tell us all about your feelings. Maybe not everything in detail, but go right ahead.
Oh,
Yeah, if there's events for games, new or old, I mean, we definitely pull back some of the older games and do events for them. So if there's something you really want to try again, let us know. Try to get scheduled.
having Ryan on the last cast coincided with us properly advertising our YouTube channel, which features video renditions of us talking to a static image. And I'm quite happy to see that we are getting a decent amount of views on YouTube, so that was worth it. There appears to be people that want to watch videos of an image. But I am really disappointed that we got our first dislike on Ryan's video for no reason.
Yeah, it's YouTube.
It's just statistics. I mean,
It's just YouTube. What is it?
that video now has more views than all our other videos combined, I think.
Yeah, I'm really impressed. I'm quite happy that that's done so well.
There's probably somebody who has a game he's waiting for who hates Ryan because he was supposed to port it and it never happened.
But yeah, I'm really happy that.
Or somebody who is a member of a certain not actually
Uh-oh.
group.
Don't mention it. No, no.
I'm sad about all I'm going to say.
Okay, let's just end the cast there. I think we're good.
You've been listening to SteamLUG Cast. We thank you.
See ya, everybody.
Bye. Bye.